Hi there, this is Lisa with Queen Bee Creations. I'm here today with another Facebook Live. Today we're going to be working on these really cute little floating frame cards. I used one middle piece and created two cards out of it, so you kind of get a twofer. But they're raised, so the pieces are floating above the paper, and I'm going to show you today how we're going to do that. I'm going to use what we call press and seal. This is found at just the regular grocery store. It's a saran wrap sort of thing, but it's sticky on one side, kind of not real super sticky. It's maybe post-it note feel, but only on one side. And so we're going to use that in today's project as we make these super cute little cards. So let's get down to the workspace and I'll show you how it's done. Okay, so here is our workspace and our cute little cards. How I'm going to do that is I'm going to bring in a piece of cardstock, and this is just our Whisper White, and it is 4 inches by 5 1/4. And then I'm going to bring in the Big Shot. And in order to get all the little frame pieces, our little puzzle pieces for our frame, I'm using a bundle called the Love You to Pieces. And so it does come right now as a bundle. So if you're interested in this, you want to get it now while it's still bundled at a discount. It is going to continue over, but it will be available separately. So you'll pay for each one rather than saving the 10% by buying them together. We're going to be using this die, and I just went ahead and ran it through the platform. And I'm just taking a scrap piece of, this is Blueberry Bushel cardstock, and I'm just going to lay the die on top of it. So here's our die, and it cut it all the way through. And so I'm just going to punch these out. And I've also done this with yellow and red. And so we have an assortment of colors. Let me bring these in. And this gave me plenty of pieces for multiple cards by cutting one of each color. But I did want to show you how I did it. But these simple little pieces, I'm just going to arrange on my Whisper White piece of cardstock. Hi, Wendy. I'm glad you figured out how to comment because I wasn't sure how to fix that. So I'm just going to go about and just place these randomly all over the front of this card base. And I'm just trying to mix up the colors, bump them around, you know, orientation wise and color wise. And you know, if you just lay it down, and if you don't like it, you can pick it up and move them around. That's kind of the beauty of doing it this way, is that you get to decide if you like it or not. And if you don't, or you want to move things closer together or spread some colors up, it's easy to do because you can just move them. Let's see. And I'm going ahead, I'm going to let them hang off the edge because we can trim that up nice and easy. Let's go with another yellow down here. So for speed's sake, let's say I like it that way. So if I've got all my pieces and they're, you know, randomly scattered around, and I decide that I like it, then I'm going to come in with that press and seal that I talked about earlier. Once you start fidgeting, it's hard to stop. So I'm going to bring in my press and seal, and I've just tore off a piece just big enough for my card. Oops. I want to gently set it down on there without disturbing my pieces. So let's fix that up. So I'm going to lightly lay it down and press. And so I'm trying to get it to stick. And then I'm going to lift it up. Then I'm going to trim it away from the back side. So I'm just going to come in with a pair of scissors. Just using some large office scissors because they cut a little faster. And you're just going to cut away all the excess, which means the pieces hanging off the edge of the press and seal and of your little plastic piece or your little puzzle pieces. They're all going to just trim right off. So now I have that. And then I'm going to come back with the Big Shot. Now I can cut it, let's see, with the cardstock on it, or I can peel this off and cut just these pieces. It's good either way, but you're going to want it like this eventually. So you either peel it now or peel it later in 2 pieces. But then you're going to set that down on your Big Shot, and then you're going to take a die. And last time I used a circle die, this time I'm going to use a rectangle. And so I'm just going to set that onto here. And decide that I think it's centered. Now I want to just pull these 2 sides apart. Ugh, that's being a little stubborn. Sorry about this. Hazards of being on camera is things that didn't go wrong in practice now go wrong. But we'll just run that through the Big Shot one more time. Now I've got a good solid contact and it cut all the way through. These dies are a little bit tricky. These are our stitched rectangles. And they're stitched on both sides. I don't know if you noticed that, but as it cut, it's got a stitching on the inside and a stitching on the outside, which is kind of fun. But now I have these 2 separate pieces. And so these are going to be my 2 different cards. So I will have 2 different card bases. This time I'm going to use a real red. And it's just going to mount on there like this. But in order to get the floating effect of them being raised, what I'm going to do is I'm going to peel away this white piece. Remember I said I wanted to have this separate. Okay, so there's all my little pieces on that one. I've seen a lot of people use this stamp set for autism. Apparently the Autism Speaks movement uses puzzle pieces and these colors. And so if you have someone that's supporting that cause, this might be a great set to make some cards for them. Of course, all these things can be purchased in my store. so that's what I wanted. I wanted it to pull away and have my puzzle pieces on the press and seal, but not on here yet. And then I'm going to come in with Stampin' Dimensionals, and I'm coming in with both sizes. I've got the larger ones that are standard size, and then I've got the mini dimensionals, because it's all going to depend on what size my puzzle piece is. But I basically want one dimensional, or a good support, on each of the puzzle pieces, so that they will be lifted up. So these other ones, I think I'll use some little ones. And don't be afraid to cut up the dimensionals. They are, you know, the two different sizes, and they work great in these sizes. But as you'll notice, we have a couple little pieces that are smaller than these are. And so that's when I'm going to come in with my snips and just cut a little piece. Really little. So it will be fit behind there and behind another one over here. Plus, if you use up the edges, then you know you're, getting full use of all your product. You wouldn't want to throw the edges away because they are still dimensional. And now I could, if I could use a white base and just lay the stuff directly on it and have it float above a white base. Or I can bring back in the piece that we cut at the same time we cut these and use this as a frame, which is what I'm going to do. And so now I'm just going to come in and peel off all my backs. Ooh. Yikes. Okay, so now what I want to do is just place it back on where it came off. Don't stick. Oh goodness. But what you can see is the press and seal is making the frame kind of hold its shape, but when it all goes on, we'll have the frame done up with puzzle pieces. And I did this with another card I'll show you at the end, where I actually used stamps, and I stamped the images and then die cut them, or colored them and then die cut them, and they worked out really well too. There we go. I have this stuff when I do have goofs like this and something goes down and it's not quite right. It's called Undo, and I get this off of Amazon, and I've also seen it at the big box stores. But this is fantastic stuff because it's an adhesive remover, but it allows the adhesive to stick over again. So if I just place this under here and I gently remove this little piece, because I didn't think it went quite on there right, I can lift it up, place it back down where it goes, and it sticks again. It'll stick really, really well if I let it dry first. But then my frame will go on there like that. I don't want to get out the heat gun and make noise, but if you need this stuff to dry faster, you could just heat it with the heat gun and it just evaporates like rubbing alcohol would. And you can also use it on photographs. I actually found out about it when I was scrapbooking, because you could remove photos from photo albums and it didn't ruin the emulsion on the photos, which I thought was pretty fantastic. Aw, first grandbaby, that's awesome. And May 3rd was my daughter's birthday, so right in there. How cool. You're gonna love being a grandma. Okay, so now I'm just going to adhere this frame to my card front. Of course, making sure that I'm opening from the right side, because you wouldn't want to stick it on and have it go that way. Although with this particular pattern, it wouldn't really matter because it would look good upside down. And I'm using the liquid glue, so I have my wiggle room and I can bump it around. Then for the middle, I'm going to take a piece of scrap paper and go back to my stamp set, which is right here. This one, okay. That works in that orientation. So these ones are liquid glue and not tape, because it allows me to wiggle it a little bit, because I wanted to make sure that my edges were even and it doesn't dry really quickly. When I use snail, once you place it down, it grips really quickly. And then you can wiggle the liquid glue for a little bit to line it up. Yes. I use it a lot if I'm using a smaller frame. I mean, this isn't one of them, but you know, sometimes when I'll cut things on 1/8 of an inch instead of 1/4 of an inch, there's less forgiveness in my frames. And so that's when I'll really use liquid glue. Let's see, we'll bring in Blueberry Bushel. So tap, 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 and then straight up and down, no rocking. And then there is a framelit in here that's going to cut that out for me. So I'll take this over here to the Big Shot. Geez, my voice still feels all scratchy from the allergies. I apologize. So there's that piece. And I'm just going to place that in the middle, and I'm going to give it some dimensionals. So there's card 1. And this was my practice run of card 1. So I used a rectangle here and a circle here. I will admit the circle was a little bit easier because it didn't have the double stitching around it. But they both work. And then this one, let's see what I want to do with this one. and then I'm going to gently peel off the press and seal. Now this is going to work well because the press and seal doesn't have quite as much sticky as the dimensionals do. So the dimensionals will stick to the cardstock, and then your press and seal comes off. And when it doesn't quite work right, you improvise. So we would have the middle there. I think what I might do is, I'm using my trimmer to cut off a small piece of blueberry bushel that I could put across the bottom, and then I could mount my sentiment down here at the bottom. Another scrap of Whisper White. This is what I keep all my scraps in. It's just a little project folder I got at the office supply store. They're made by Pendaflex. The number on them is 99849. So if you're interested in those, that's what I keep all my scraps in. Let's see. Let's try yellow this time. I used Daffodil Delight. Run this through my die cutting machine. So now I can use snail. And this piece was just a tad long, so I flip it over and trim from the back side. And mount that down there. And I can mount my puzzle piece there. So that would be card 2. So for today, we made those 2 cards. My practice cards were these 2. And then the other one I wanted to show you is a new stamp set that's coming out in the 2019-2020, God, that sounds so funny to say, 2020 annual catalog. And this is a fun new stamp set, and it actually comes in a bundle, so there is the stamps and the die cuts, and it's called the Arts with Art is the stamp set, and then there's the arts and crafts framelits that goes with it. So with these, I stamped them, colored them with my Stampin' Blends, and then did this frame technique with it. So you can see they're all raised. And this was my card 2. So again, on this one I had used the circle. And I wanted to let you know on the inside of my cases, what I have done is taken a clear envelope and then cut the top off so that I could slide things in. And this is all the excess pieces. So if I'm ever stamping with a set and I cut out lots of little pieces that I didn't use them all, I try to keep them with the stamp set, because when I kept them in a drawer, they kind of got lost, and this way it kept it all together. So any of my customers will be getting their catalog in the mail. I've already ordered them. They're set to ship out in a couple weeks, and then it takes they say up to 3 weeks. I'm hoping not that long to get to you. I have also instilled a new Help Me Grow customer referral program. I do appreciate it when you guys refer me to your friends and fellow crafters. And so as a way to say thank you, I've started up a referral program that will allow me to give you rewards. Thank you, and I will see you next Monday. Thanks for joining me. Bye.